Hi everyone, do you hear me? Rafe, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, sir. How are you?
Okay, fine, thank you. Guys, have a good day, have a good night, have a good evening. I don't know wherever you are from. And thank you so much for joining our workshop tonight. I welcome you with my all sincerity. And there are lots of attendees I see, 18 people here at the moment, and the number is rising. So it's better to speak first. We can talk after the all community come here. To start with introducing you to Clarusway quickly, before I want to introduce myself, who I am. My name is McCarthy. I am the team lead of Full Stack Path or department or branch, whatever you call it. And now I can introduce Clarusway to you, who we are, what we do. And I can say Clarusway is a Virginia-based IT training school and specializing in coding, testing, automation, and information assurance. And we also provide quality IT training to prepare individuals for next generation jobs. From beginners to IT professionals, we offer cutting-edge programs used today by the leading corporation. And if you want to know more about us, you can come and visit www.clarusway.com and you can have more information. And our personnel can help you. And if you want, you can also contact with us on the website. Then we can reach you whenever you want. And what else I can say? We have what we are teaching or what we are teaching. We teach coding. We have three different paths departments. One is data science, and one is AWS and DevOps, and one is full stack. And tonight, instructor Rafe will teach you or will introduce you the HTML and the CSS basics. I think it's gonna be an enjoyable session with the instructor Rafe. And after learning the basics, I think in the end of the session, you are going to create a basic website. Rafe, is it possible for them at the moment?
Yeah, of course. After this workshop, everyone can write their code and write their own website.
Yeah, guys, if you don't have any coding experience, don't worry. HTML and CSS or creating a static website is really easy, and you will see the code how coding is easy. You can easily write codes and create a production. When you see the production, you are gonna be happy. Be sure, I am sure about it. And our session is recording at the moment. If you have missed any part of the class, any part of the instruction, our technical assistant will answer all of your questions, and I will also monitor the session together here. I will also answer your questions, and in the end of the session or tomorrow or any day in the future, you can come and watch the record anytime. So I thank you so much for listening to me, and I want to kick off the event. Rafe, if you feel ready, you can start it.
Yes, I am ready, and thank you for this warm introduction. And let me introduce myself first. And my name is Rafe, and today we are gonna code our tribute page. We will see it in the first time, and then we will code one by one. I graduated from Clarusway 10 months ago, and I am an instructor in Clarusway, and I am an AWS DevOps engineer in Clarusway also. So I like coding, and moreover, I like to learn and teach something. So I think the best way to learn something is to teach somebody else. So after this workshop, you will learn lots of things about web pages, and you will know so many things. And don't stop and teach somebody else. For example, teach your friends, your children, your parent. So uh, don't stop here, and every day try to add something to your knowledge, and in someday you will be ready to work with developing making codes in production. So let's begin our workshop. Everyone is ready, I think. So let me show you first of all the end result. After today's workshop, we will have a tribute page. I prepared for Steve Jobs because he is a legend. So we will have some headings, and we will have some images. We prepare some paragraphs, and then we have some tables and lists. After that, finally, we will have some links to other pages. So this is the main idea of all of the websites. So let's begin one by one. So where will we start? For start, please create a folder in your computer and name it whatever you want. I will name it workshop. This will be our working directory. So we will create our files inside these directories. So we will separate our work from other works. So let's create our first folder, and let's go inside this folder, and we will start with creating our index.html. This is our file, our coding file. So let's create an index.html. Index.html. So this is a convention. Why we are naming it index.html? Because every server's trying to find index.html. This is a convention, so it is better to name it index.html. Of course, if you have other files, other pages, for example, visitors page or sign in, sign out pages, you can name it different. So our main page will be index.html, and we created it. You will see the icon of your default web browsers. So for my case, it is Chrome. If you use different web browsers, you will see different icons here. So we will start with code. Let's open it with Visual Studio. In this workshop, I will use Visual Studio Code, but you can use different text editors. You can use Visual Studio, I will use Sublime Text, and you can use whatever you want. You can use Atom, and you can use Visual Studio Code. Let's open with your text editor. I will open with Sublime Text. So my text editor opened. Let me adjust it. So in this workshop, we will write our code on the left side, and we will see our result on the right side. We will open our web page on the right side, and we will see the result immediately. That's the fun part of creating a web page. You will code and you will see the result at the same time. It is very, very good. So everyone is ready. let's begin with writing our HTML code. So first of all, we are writing our, when I type something in Sublime Text, it automatically show me the possibilities. So it is the good way to use text editors. So we will begin with duck type HTML. So what does it mean, duck type HTML? So all HTML documents must start with declarations. In HTML5, it is very short, duck type HTML. For example, before it is very long. For example, in HTML4, it is a long line. It is a required part because the server will understand this is an HTML5 document. So we must write, first of all, duck type HTML. And this is a simple declaration, and it guarantees the document behaves correctly. When we write HTML code, it will behave correctly. So let's begin with our HTML outline. So the first tag will be HTML, of course, HTML, and we must close this tag with just an extra slash. We'll close it. So inside our HTML tags, all of the code will be in HTML code. So let's continue with the main outline. So what else we will have? We will have a head, and we will have a body. Let's create our body. So it's like human, right? So we have an HTML opening and closing tags, and we have a head and we have a body. So it looks like a human. So we will not see the head of the humans, so we can see our toes. So, but in the body part, we will see our code, our results. In head, we will have some metadata, and in body, we will have our code. So let's begin with head. Let's write our head first. So head element is a container for metadata, as I said. It is information about our web page. So it is about our search engines or some links to our external CSS and JavaScript documents, etc. So what do you know about head elements? So there are a few head elements. For example, title is the required one. Let's begin with title. And this will be our title will be seen on our web browser. So let's name our web page. This will be our web page's title. So let's name it. Today we are gonna prepare Steve Jobs tribute page. So let's make it Steve Jobs. This will be our title. So let's save it, and I will open this HTML document. So let's turn back to our folder and double click our page. So it automatically opened. Let me adjust this one. Okay. So as you see, we can see our title here on the tab. If you want to bookmark this page, it will automatically be your bookmark summary. So let's change it and see the result. Tribute page. Let's change our title and save it and refresh our page. So as you see, it changed to Steve Jobs tribute page. So whatever you write here inside title element, you will see it on the web browser's title. So before move on, let me show you one more thing. What about HTML elements? And a basic HTML element is consists of opening tag. This is for paragraph, of course, not for title, but a different element. So it will begin with an opening tag, and it will close with a closing tag. Just the difference is a slash. A slash will be on the closing tag. So in between these opening and closing tag, you will have some content. For example, this is my cat is very grumpy is our content. So the tag will affect this content, and this all of these named element, HTML element. What else I can show you? I can show you one more thing before move on. There can be attributes inside our tag, opening tag. For example, there is a class attribute here inside our paragraph. So we will talk about classes and IDs later. So let's move on now. I summarized you the HTML element before move on. So inside head, you can use style, meta, link, script, or base elements. We will use some of them later. So let's move to our body. Let's move to our body and let's adjust our document. Let's have a space here. Okay, we are good to go. We are inside our body. Whatever we write here, we will see on our page. So we will see it immediately. So let's write our heading first. What about heading? So we will write H1. So this is a heading. Let's close it with a slash. So we open then heading and close it. And let's write our first heading. For this will be Steve Jobs and 1955 to 2011. So let's save it and refresh our page, and boom, it is. We can see our content in our web page. So this will be our first. What about headings? Headings are useful things. I will just don't write these part and just watch it. I will paste here something to show you the headings and refresh our page. So mostly you will use a main title, 3 or 4 levels. Normally HTML has 6 levels, H5 and H6 you can use also, but you will mainly use a main title and also a top level heading. Maybe you will use subheadings, etc. So this is the main title is the biggest one. So these are our headings. Using headings is about search. It affects search engine results. So be careful using these. Okay, I will erase them and turn back to normal. Okay, good to go. Everyone is good. Can you follow me? Okay. Before move on, let's talk about CSS. And what about CSS? CSS is cascading style sheet, and this is not a programming language. This is not a markup language. It's all about uh, styling our web default web content. For example, uh, you can change color, change fonts, change size of the text. Uh, you can adjust spacing between elements and how elements are positioned. You can change it. You can change the layouts, and change background images, background color, etc. Much more. And uh, CSS types are different. There are 3 types of CSS. First of all, the main CSS, I can say it is inline CSS. Inline CSS is if we use CSS inside our line. For example, for this H1 heading, we can use inline CSS. Let's use it. We must write here style, and we can add our CSS here. I will talk about CSS more, and let's uh, color our heading. So color, you can use, for example, blue. Blue you can use. Okay, we use an inline CSS. It is on the same line of our HTML element, so it is called inline CSS. So um, what does it mean? Let's save it and let's refresh our page, so you can see our text is blue now. We change our color. This is inline CSS. And what else? We can have internal CSS. For adding internal CSS, we must write style here on the head part. We are on the head now, don't confuse. We write style element, we use style element, and it is automatically opens that type attribute. It is a text CSS, and we will use our CSS here in between our opening and closing text. So what else we can use? We can use, for example, H1 we will use, and after H1, let's open a curly brackets and close our curly brackets and change our text whatever you want. We can use text align to center. We can center our heading. So let's save it. What do we have? We have an internal CSS, and we saved it. Let's see the result. Oh, we centered our heading H1. First, we use inline CSS here. We change our color to blue, and then we used an internal CSS and centered our text. So what else? The third part. The third type of CSS is an external CSS. So what about this? We must write here on the head part link. We will link to an external file. Link. And we will close it. Let's use our auto. What does it say? We use the link. We will link to an external file. We will create it, and it says it's relates. It's a style sheet, and type is the same with internal CSS. It is text CSS, and we will reference hypertext reference. It means href. We will reference to a file, or we will link to another page. So to write something here, we must create a CSS file. inside our working directory. So let's turn back to our working directory, and let's open our, where is it? Clarusway. Sorry. So. Inside our workshop, let's create another file and name it style.css. This is also a good usage, a good convention. We named it style.css. Let's open it with visual Sublime Text also. Okay, now we are ready to write our CSS code here, and let's open our page. Okay, we are ready to write our CSS code. This is our index.html. We link to our style.css. So what can we do here? For example, I want to show you before one more thing about CSS elements. CSS needs a selector first. This can be different things. There are lots of selectors in CSS. Here we use a paragraph p selector. It selects the paragraphs inside our document, and it opens the declaration block with curly brackets. And first of all, there will be a property. In this example, it is a color, and after property, use a column, and there will be a value. In this example, it is red. It changes the paragraph's color to red, and every declaration must end with a semicolon. And you can use the more than one selector at once, and you can use more than one declaration inside our declaration block. So after this explanation, let's use our let's select our h1 again. Let's open our brackets and let's code. For example, let's add a border in our heading. It must be solid and maybe the color green. So let's save it and refresh our page. Okay. For example, and also we can change the color. Let's try to change the color to red and see the result. So I saved it, I refresh my page, nothing changed because there is a priority between these CSS. First of all, the server looks to inline CSS, and then it looks for internal CSS, and then it will look to external CSS. So let's erase our inline CSS. So it is, let's erase it. Let's save it. We don't have any inline CSS, and we have a color red external CSS. So let's refresh our page. Style. Let me check. Okay. The problem, sorry for that. The problem is we didn't write our reference here. Let's write it. Style.css. If you don't write our path to the file, it will not be affected. So I saved my document and refresh my page. You can see the result. It is red now. So let's add any. We will continue with our HTML file. We write our first heading. We centered it. We use CSS. We use three CSS at the same time. So let's add a border also here in line CSS. What can we write? Style, and we must write border, and we must use a solid border, and the color will be, for example, you can write a color blue. Okay, if you use more than one property value here, you must make a space in between these values. So let's save it and let's refresh our page. Yes, we have a solid blue border here. Okay, good to go. Are you okay? We had an error, but we solved it. Let me summarize what did we do for now. We have a declaration. This declaration means our web page is an HTML5 document, and we have our first HTML element, HTML. In between HTML, everything will be HTML code, and we have an head and body. Inside head, there is invisible code. What does these codes? We have a title. We can see this title in our browsers, and we have CSS with style, internal CSS, and with link, external CSS. So after head, we have a body. Inside our body, we have a content. We have a heading, our first content. We have an inline CSS also, and we have more than one value with these inline CSS. Okay, so let's move to further, and let's add an image inside our web page. This is the very fun part of HTML. We can use image tag to add images. Image tag is an empty tag because we don't have any text in between opening and closing text. It just includes a source for our image. Inside our source, I must share it with you. So let's share with you. Let's share it. All panelists and attendees. I share it with you, my link. Let's paste our link to our source here. We will create an image inside our page, and this is our source. And save it and see the result. Okay, this is good. Everyone, did you create our first image? I think it is the most interesting part of HTML documents. You can use your own picture also, but there's a problem here. We must adjust something, because if there is something wrong with our link, for example, if I erase JPEG here and save it, what can we see? It tries to load the page, but it can't load, and it shows an icon here. That's because our link is bad now. So what can we do for this errors? We can show an alternate text here. For example, Steve Jobs. We can write. Let's save it and refresh our page. So the users will visit your page, and if something is wrong with your link, if you have a broken link, they will see a meaningful text here. Steve Jobs. Maybe you can write its code. Let's turn back to a normal JPEG and save it and load again. Okay, it's good to go. But there is another problem. The size of our image is so big, we must adjust our size. For this, we have an attribute, so we can adjust our height or weight. So we can adjust our height. For example, you can use 300 pixels. Px means pixels, but you don't have to use it. So let's save our code and refresh our page. Okay, this is good. This is a reasonable image size. You can try with it. You can use 500, 600, whatever you want. So let's summarize image tag. We have an image tag. It is an empty tag because there is no closing tag. You don't have to close it. And we have a source here. Source shows the path to the image. We use that link in internet. You can use a link, and we showed an alternate text, and we used an height. We adjusted the image's height. So let's move with our web page, and let's use another empty tag. This is an horizontal line. As you see, you don't have to close it again. There are few empty tags in HTML. It is one of them, horizontal line. Let's save our code and refresh the page, and we will see an horizontal line under our image. So let's continue after horizontal line. This is a good part of HTML. We will have a paragraph. We will have a paragraph, and it must be closed because there will be some content in between our opening and closing text. So I will share with you my paragraph. So I think everyone can reach this paragraph. We will use it inside our HTML document. So I will paste it in between the opening and closing tags. So let's save it and refresh our page. Yes, now we can see our paragraph. So it describes something about Steve Jobs. So everyone, I will wait a couple of seconds to everyone can copy and paste their content to the pages. So we will have some formatting elements. So I will show you the formatting elements. What do we have? There are lots of formatting elements, but the main part of them you can use italic, bold. You can make your text bold, emphasized. So something bold and strong are same. Italic and emphasize are same for visually. Visually they are same, but in detail there are some differences. But normally we will see the same thing. You can make your text small, deleted, inserted, subscript, or superscript, or marked. So let's use them. Let's use them. Okay, I will open it here, and okay, let's use them one by one. For example, we want Stephen Paul Jobs text bold. For this, we must open and bold tag here, B, and we must close it at the end of wherever we want. If we save now and don't close our opening tag, what will happen? Let's refresh our page. Oh, you see all of the text is bold now. So we must limit this to here and close this tag. It will affect only Stephen Paul jobs text. So let's save and refresh our page, and you see only Stephen Paul jobs part is bold. So let's continue with italic. So wherever you want, you can make italic. So if you, I want to CEO of the next italic. So we come here and write I tag. And if I save now, you see all the text after CO will be an italic. So we must limit this here and close our open tag. So we save and refresh our page. So now only CO of the next part is italic. So let's continue with delete something here. For example, delete the wherever you want Apple after Apple inc. Let's delete here. You will write down and you will close it. Don't forget to close our text. So let's save it and refresh our page. As you see, Apple inc is deleted now. So what else? Normally, most of the time, mathematical things will use subscript and superscript. So let's use here in 1970s, we will use subscript S and superscript S, and we will see the result. So let's use sub here, subscript, and don't forget to close the tag, save it, and use superscript here, the other S, sub, and close it. Don't forget to close. Okay, let's save it and see the result. So we see a subscript here after 1970s and superscript here 1980s. So what else? We can use marked. For example, Steve Wozniak, we can use a mark element, mark element, and don't forget to close it. Let's save it. What is that? Mark. I missed that. Sorry. Mark. Okay. Okay. Let's refresh our page, and you see it is marked. And also, you can use nested tags. For example, you can both mark and bold. So if you want to use bold with marked, let's open it and don't forget to close it. In between these bold tag, everything will be bold. Of course, the text will be bold. Let's close our bold tag. So let's save it and refresh our page. It is bold and marked. So the order is important. If you begin with bold, you must end with bold. And the second one is marked, and first of all, you must close marked one. So you can use different text formatting elements. You can play with it. Please play with it, and after this workshop, you can use different elements. So let's move on. I think it is good to go. So maybe we have a table now. So let's have a table after our paragraph. Let's create a horizontal line again. HR tag. This is an empty tag. You don't have to close it. Let's save and see the result by refreshing our page. Yes, we see our horizontal line here. So let's move on and let's first of all let's create an H2 heading, and uh, we will create our quotes of Steve Jobs. So we will write our H2 tag. Let's close it, and let's write here quote from Steve, and save it and refresh our page and see the result. Yes, this is a smaller one of H1. This is a smaller H2 heading. So we have our heading. After our heading, let's create our table, first table. I will explain you first of all the table, and table tag, let's write it, table. It's we will open a table and close a table. In between these tags, we will create our table. Inside our table, we will have rows, and inside our rows, we will have data or table heading. So in this example, we will have 4 quotes and 1 image for Steve, and we will have 5 rows. So let's create our rows first. Let's create our table row, and don't forget to close. This is a nested element. So our first row is ready, but inside our rows there can be more than 1 columns. If you write 1 data or 1 heading, you will have 1 column. So let's create a table data here. I will use table data td tag, and I will close it. So we prepared our first row. It will have 1 data. Okay, let's copy this and let's paste it 5 times, so because we will have 5 rows. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, we are ready. Let's save it. And as you see, we have a table. Inside our table, we have 5 table rows, and inside rows, we will have some table data. It can be image, it can be audio, video, or text. So in the first row, uh, we will use an image. But before using an image, let's add a CSS. Don't forget CSS. And let's go to style.css, external CSS file, and let's add some CSS to our table. So we must have a selector. As you guess, we must have table selector, table, and we can have multiple selectors, as we said, table data, and we must open our brackets. Inside our brackets, we will have some um, property and values. For example, we will have a border to see good 1 pixels, for example. We can have multiple values, but you must make a space in between. It will be a solid, and for example, it will be a black one. So let's save it and let's refresh our page. So you will see an empty table here. Let's turn back to our index.html file to to fill out some data inside our rows. So the first data will be an image of Steve Jobs. So I will share it with you in 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 Zoom chat. So I shared it with you, the link, and let's add this first table data. It will be an image. So write an image tag, and source will be the link. I shared it with you. Let's save it. Let's refresh our page. Okay, so we have our image in the first row, as you see. Okay, and as always, we will have some alternate text here, and write Steve Jobs, and you can adjust the height because it is very big. Let's adjust the height. As always, it will be 300 pixels. So let's save it, refresh our page. Okay, it is reasonable. In the first row, we have an image now, and we have empty rows. So let's add the codes one by one inside these tables. So let's add the first quote from Steve. I will share it with you from chat, and I will paste here inside the first table data, in between table data tag, opening tag and closing tag. Between there will be a first quote from Steve. Let's save it. Let's refresh our page. More visible. Okay, as you see, we have in the first row we have an image, and the second row we have an text. And let's continue with adding our text to the other rows. I will share it with the second code. Let's save it, and let's add the third code. I share it with you. Let's okay, and the last one. I like it very much. The last code is very good. I will share it with you. Okay, so let me check my favorite if today. Okay, so we have an image inside our table and four codes from Steve. Let's save our file and refresh our page. As you see, we have four codes, but we must adjust our table. For example, I want to adjust my first, second, and third code uh, side by side with uh, Steve Jobs image. So what can we do? We must use row span attribute. So to use row span, we must go to the first image table data. So it is here, as you see, before image, inside the table data tag, we must use row span to 4 because it will be an image and 3 codes from Steve. Let's save it. Let's refresh our page, and boom, yeah. We have now a good visual table. We have an image of Steve Jobs. We have 3 codes next to the image, and I want to make this last code uh, used in 2 columns. And what can I do? I must use column span. So to span 2 columns, I must use col span attribute. So let's go to the last code. It is here. Inside table data, we must use col span 2 because it will use 2 columns. So Let's save it. Let's refresh our page. Okay, it's good. We have a good table. We have codes from Steve, an image, and the other rows have some codes from Steve. So we will turn back to this table, and we have some CSS for this table, but now we finished our table. So if I let me refresh our minds. We have a table, we have rows, we have 5 rows. In the first row, we have a table data, it is an image, and it is spanning to 4 rows. And the next row, we have a codes, and the last code spanning to 2 columns. So this is our table. Let's move on. Let's add some lists to our web page. So before move on, we will add an h2 again. Let's open our h2 tag and let's close it. And we will have an heading. Let's write, 5 inventions of Steve Jobs. We will list 5 inventions of Steve Jobs. So let's save it. Let's refresh our page. Okay, we see our heading, and now we are ready to add our table, add our list. Lists can be there is 2 main list type: ordered list or unordered list. So ordered lists are lists order of the items doesn't matter, such as shopping list, or unordered lists where the order of the items does matter, so such as recipes. So let's add a ordered list. We must use OL tag and we must close it. In between ordered list tag, we will have listed items. For every listed item, we must open an LI tag for listed items, and we must close it. In this example, I will use 5 inventions of Steve Jobs, so I will paste it 5 times. Let's say copy and paste 5 times. Okay, so we will see the result. Let's save it and refresh our page. Okay, we have an ordered list: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inside our listed item, we will add some text. But before move on, I want to show you the difference between unordered list and ordered list. Let's change it to UL for unordered list. Don't forget to change the closing tag. Let's save it and refresh our page. Yes, you see a bullet points. For unordered list, there is no order. 1, 2, 3, no order. But we will use ordered list in this example. So let's turn back to normal. I just want to show you. Okay, we turn back to normal. So let's add 5 inventions of Steve Jobs. It is good. And let's, first of all, Macintosh, and the second one, maybe typography on screen. Okay, and the third one is a mouse. Let's guess what is the fourth one. iMac plus iPod plus an iPad. And the last one, the best, iPhone. So let's save our content, let's refresh our page, and boom, now we have a list. We can see our list here, 5 inventions of Steve Jobs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a list. It is much more easy to create a list. Of course, you can change the text with, for example, mark. You can use the tags here also. Let's see the result. We want to mark typography on screen. Let's save it, and you will see it is marked. You can change the text, but I will turn back to normal. I just want to show you you are able to change the style of the text with elements. So the most important part of the HTML documents is links. You have to use links inside your page. There must be some visitors page, shopping page, or another page. You will use link, or you will use link to an external website. So in this example, I will use a link to Steve Jobs' Wikipedia page. So first of all, let me separate our list and our link to with an HR horizontal line. Let's save and see the result. Okay, we have a horizontal line, and let's have our link. First of all, let's create a heading. It will be, maybe we can use H3 here, the third level heading. So let's close it. In between our opening and closing tag, let's write our content, learn more about Steve. It will be our content. Let's refresh our page. Okay, we are ready to add our link. So to link somewhere else, we must use anchor tag. It is a special tag, anchor tag. So it has an href attribute also. We will use a path to the anchor, we will link, we will show the path, and in between opening and closing tag, we will have some content. It will be visible on the web page, a link. So we can use, for example, whatever you want. You can use Steve. I will use just Steve. I don't use any H reference now. Let's save it and see the result first. And you can see the Steve underlined and blue for the first time. It is blue because it is unvisited link. And when you visit, it will be turned to purple. An active link, maybe it will be red. So when I click here now, click this link, it just goes to the top of the page. It doesn't go anywhere because we didn't mention any reference. So let's make a reference, and I will share it with you, the Wikipedia page of Steve Jobs. I shared from Zoom chat, so you can use it. I will paste it here. Href is Wikipedia page of Steve Jobs. So let's save it. Let's see the result. We don't see anything, but if we click, it will go to the Steve Jobs Wikipedia page. This is most important specialty of web pages. We can link to another page, we can link to our own pages. So, but there's a problem here. I don't want to open it with the same page. As you see, when I click here, it automatically opens on the same page. So I want it to open in a new tab. So there's a way to make it. What is that? We can use target attribute. So target will be underscore and blank. This means it will open in a new tab. Target attribute and blank value will cause it open in a new tab. Let's refresh our page and click Steve. Okay, it opens in a new tab, not our own tab. So users will click here and at the same time they will stay on the home page. It's a good specialty. You will use it much. So I can summarize our HTML part. Let's make it bigger. So close it. We have an H1 heading. It is bigger. It is the biggest heading, and we have an image of Steve Jobs. We have a paragraph. We change something here. We use attributes, and we have H2 heading, quotes from Steve, and we used a table to write the quotes. And then we have an list for inventions of Steve Jobs. And then finally, we have a link to Steve Jobs. To learn something more about Steve Jobs, you can visit the Wikipedia page, for example. This is the main part of our HTML. Now, we will start to style our page with CSS. So I must refresh our minds about CSS. In CSS, we have, let's go to our style.css file to explain CSS. First of all, CSS has many selectors. For example, if you want to select everything in a web page, you can use asterisk for selector. For example, with asterisk selector and color, for example, green, and save it. Let's refresh our page. As you see, all of the color of text is green, except the heading, because it has an inline or internal CSS. It is more priority than external CSS, so it doesn't affect the internal or inline CSS. And the rest of the text is green now. So asterisk will select all of the text inside our HTML page. What else? We can select elements. For example, we can select P for a paragraph. Of course, we can select multiple things, for example, H2 and P. Let's save it. Let's refresh our page. Okay. Our paragraph and our H2 heading is green, and the other is a default black. So what else? We can use classes and IDs. Let's use classes and IDs. I will explain first class. Classes, class selector selects class elements. This is a specific class attribute. Before, we must define our class. For example, I want to make the first image centered and create some border. with class. What can we do? Let's go to the first image. It is here, as you see, the image, and let's specify here a class. Sorry, specify a class. We write class equals and quotes. In between quotes, we must define our class name. It must be a meaningful name, because when you turn back to your code after 6 months, you can understand the class from its name. So you can use different, but I will use center because it will center the image. And what can we do with classes? Let's turn back to style.css file. And how can we call this CSS classes? First of all, we must use a period or dot and class name. Center. This is begins with a dot or period, and we will have our class name. And then, as always, we will open a brace and make it some CSS. First of all, display, block, and for example, margin auto. It will create a margin in every part, so it will be automatically will be centered. You can use different CSS. You can use border style, for example. Border style. You can use solid dots. Okay, let's save it. I want to show you we created a class for our image. We named it center, and then we call it with period and class name, and we have some blocks, and we saved it. We also save our index.html and refresh our page. Okay, now we see the result. The image is centered with a class. This is a class. And let's move on. Classes, class elements can be used in different part of your HTML document. You can use multiple places. For example, you can use with a p tag, and you can add class here, the same class or different class. And also, if you want to use more than one class, you must make a space and use another class, second class here. Okay, now in this example, I will use just one class. Okay, and let's move on to ID. Okay, I want to use ID, and for ID, I want to use, for example, in the last code, I will make it more visible. So I will use ID for the last code, search for the last code. It is here inside our HTML document. It is here, but to use IDs, you must start with the ID and equal sign, and in between quotes you will write your ID name. So let's name it with a meaningful name, quote, for example. The difference between ID and class is very simple. You can use only once ID, and you can use classes many times inside your page. So I can't use code ID in anywhere else. So it's a unique. So let's call our ID in our style.css. How to call our IDs? Let's use a hash sign, and ID name for this is code. Don't double check and don't write wrong thing here. Code. For example, I want this code bigger and italic, and I want to change the background color. For example, you can play with it. Align text, align the text to center, and for font size X large maybe. It's the beauty of Sublime Text. You will see the possibilities. You can change as you wish. So X large, and font size maybe font style, and italic. Okay, and what else? Background color. You can change background color to whatever you want. In my example, aquamarine is a good color for. Okay, let's save it and refresh our page. Okay, we see the result. We used an ID to shape our last code. We use a class to shape our image. So we use different styles. What else? In CSS, we talk about asterisks, universal selector, element selectors, P, H1, H2, IDs, classes, and you can use attributes also, just select images, for example, or you can use pseudo class selectors. For example, it's interesting to use pseudo class selectors. I want to add a hover effect in our table. So let's add an hover effect to our table. Hover effect. Okay. So pseudo class selectors is like this. We want to change table row, and let's use column and hover here. So it will select the table rows, and it will create an hover effect. So we define our hover effect first, and in background color maybe we can use bisque and save it. It's nice to use bisque. So I saved it. We select table rows, we added hover effect, and it will change the color to bisque. Save it, refresh our page. Okay, when you scroll over, you will see the hover effect. You can change color, and you can change table rows. You can select anything else. This is a pseudo class selector. So in CSS we used let me refresh our mind. Okay, we used universal selector asterisk. We used element selectors H1 table data P H2. We use ID with hash sign code. We use classes with dot and class name, and we use pseudo class selectors. So what else? We can use different selectors also. For example, if you want to change the whole body, you can write body here. You can select all of the body, and we can change background color. But I want to use RGB here because you can write the color here, red, green, blue, but I will change it to RGB. What is RGB? Before describing RGB, red, green, blue codes, for colors. I will share with you a website. Let me find. Okay, here I will share it with you. You can find more color codes in this web page. So let's make it bigger. Here is our website. There are lots of websites like this. You can you can select your color here. For example, I like this one. If you click here, it will automatically create RGB code. Let's copy RGB code and turn back to our code and paste here inside okay, inside our RGB. So this is our color in RGB shape. So let's save it. Let's refresh our page. Okay, this is good. Whole body background color is changed. And you can also add some margins to our page, because in every part we will have a margin. For example, let's add a margin. For example, 80 pixels. Maybe it's good. Let's try it. You can change it. Okay, there is, let's make it bigger. So in every part of our HTML page, there is an 80 pixels of margin. So it is much more good to see. It's good. So we are coming to the end of our workshop, but I want to show you an important thing: how to comment out something. For example, if you want to comment out a line of code, you must use slash asterisk and end with asterisk slash. This is a way to, you don't have to erase your code to try something. You can comment it out. Let's refresh. Okay, you don't want to background color. You refresh your page. You don't have to erase this code. You can use this code by erasing your comment, asterisks and slashes. Let's save it again, and you can turn back to normal. This is a good way to check your code. And also you can write some notes to your colleagues or to yourself. So in between those slash asterisk and asterisk slash, you can write I like this color. This is my note to myself. Maybe you will turn back to your code after 6 months and you will check your code, but you will not understand something inside. So you can write some small notes to yourself, or somebody else will review your code. So you can write some notes to your reviewer, your senior developer. So you can use these kind of comments. I will save it, and it's not visible on your web page. If you refresh, nothing changed, because comments will not be visible on your website. So this is basically the end of our workshop. Of course, we prepared Steve Jobs. He is a legend, and we prepare Steve Jobs tribute page, but you can change it to your tribute page. You can change your name and title here, and you can use your image, and you can write your summary here as a paragraph, and you can add your projects under these inside these table, and you can make some lists. For example, your education, your work history, you can write here, and you can give links to your, for example, for your uh, uh, GitHub page or your LinkedIn personal page, you can create some links here. So this is a general idea how to use HTML and CSS. Of course, we can't cover all the topics, so we will finish here. So what else? What is the next step for you? You can enroll with Clarusway courses. Full Stack Pad is a good way to learn so many things after HTML and CSS, JavaScript, etc. You will continue to learning process. You can inspect your page. This is a good specialty. For example, right click your page and select inspect, and boom, you will see your code. For example, head, and you can select your body. For example, you will hover over the H1 and you will see the uh, left part of your HTML, you will see. And image, if you hover on image, you will see your specialties. Of course, you will see on the right side, you will see your CSS. For example, this is a CSS for the whole body. Background color is some RGB code, and there is a margin here. As you see, when I hover on margin, you will see you see the 80 pixels of margin. So let me show you one more time. You right click on the web page, inspect, select inspect, and boom, it is opened in Chrome. HTML on the left side and CSS on the right side. You will see the uh, margin and your text. You can open your HTML document also. You can select everything here. So it's a good tool to use for developing. So what is next? You can search and try. If you use any text editor, it will show you the possibilities that you can try it, you can play with it, and you will enjoy to see the results. Whenever you code, you will see the results. It's very fun to do that. So this is the end of my workshop, and I wish you enjoyed it. We have some errors, sorry about that, but the main idea, you don't have to memorize anything. You can find your HTML codes from internet, and you can play with it with your text editors or IDEs. Thank you for watching.